it together. All right. The first one, number one. The answer is because every firstborn male belonged to the Lord. So, Ali, what would be the question?
Why did the parents sacrifice the lamb when the firstborn male was born?
Okay, very good. Did everybody hear that? Okay, say it one more time.
Why did parents sacrifice a lamb when the firstborn male was born?
Okay, very good. All right, number two, Walter. The answer is, in anger, he threw Joseph in prison. So give me the answer as if you were asking a question.
I didn't do it.
You didn't do it? Okay, but you're here now, so I'm asking.
All right. Why did he throw Joseph in prison?
Huh?
Why did he throw Joseph in prison?
Why did he? Yeah, but if I'm asking, if I don't know anything, if I'm gonna get an answer if I'm gonna give an answer to the question, you have to phrase it correctly. Who's he? He says because he threw him in prison. Or what was it you said? Why did he throw him in prison?
Who's he?
Okay. Anybody else? Ali, you have your hand up?
What did Potiphar do when his wife lied about Joseph?
Okay, that's more detail. Okay, because that's too general, you wouldn't be able to come up with that answer. Alright, so very good. If you don't have that written down, I would suggest that you write it down if you have a pen. Okay? Alright, number three. The answer is they received towns and pastures. What would be the question, Joseph?
What was the land inheritance of the Levites? Yeah.
Well, you're kind of putting the answer into the question.
It's because you have intermediate, right?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, you have intermediate? What does yours say?
What was the land inheritance of the Levites?
Okay, does anybody have the other paper? Ali, you have it?
No.
You have intermediate. Who has the other one? Ali? Give me what the answer is, not the question.
They received towns and pastures.
Okay, you have that. And yours has?
You have to match the question with the answer. So ours is so number three, you have to match the answer with the question.
Okay. Okay, so basically, what the question would be asking is, what was the Levites' inheritance? Okay? What was the Levites' inheritance? And the answer would be, they received towns and pastures. Okay, number four. The answer is, so that the other tribes would never say, who have no share in the Lord. You have no share in the Lord. What do you have, Abigail? What answer did you write? Okay, say it a little bit louder so everybody can hear you.
Why did the half-tribe of Manasseh build to military?
Okay, that's good, but you're leaving out two other tribes. Because it says the other tribes. There was more than one tribe that was on the other side of the river. There was half, you were right, with half of Manasseh, but then there was two other tribes that lived out there too. Can you tell me what they were? Okay, look in your other lessons. Look at your map. You're looking at it. Okay.
When you say the other tribes, do you mean Ephraim and Gad?
Well, not Ephraim. Ephraim was on the side where most of the tribes were.
Gad and Asher.
Not Asher.
Dan.
Can you see your map again? You were looking at it. Half the tribe of Manasseh. Somebody said Gad. There's one more. Reuben. So the tribe, the question would be, why did the tribes of Manasseh, Reuben, and Gad build an altar? Okay, so the answer would obviously be so that the other tribes would never say, you have no share in the Lord. Now, why? We talked about this before. Actually, it was Sister Brenda was teaching the class. So let's just do a quick review. Why is it that these tribes built that altar? Anybody tell me? For remembrance? Okay, very good. Who was to remember that?
What did Joshua tell the people before he died? Because that was a question. That was a speech he gave before he died. And in the verse. Are you listening? No, you're not.
Anybody else?
As long as the elders who Joshua lived, what's the question?
For their other generations.
Yeah, okay, other generations. But also, who were they doing the altar? So that who would remember?
So that
Not just their generations on their side, but who else? So,
they worship the same God.
exactly. So that the other side wouldn't forget that, hey, we're a part of you too. But what happened? What happened with this whole situation that happened with them building that altar? What did the people of Israel think that they had built that altar? Ali?
The Western tribes thought that they were worshiping on another altar than worshiping God on the real altar.
Okay, correct. Was that true?
No,
It wasn't true.
they just use it as remembrance.
Right, it was for remembrance. But sometimes, see, you have to be careful when you do things. You may do things with good intentions, right? But you may do things with good intentions, but somebody else may think that you're doing it for the wrong reasons. When really you're doing it, you know, for a good purpose. But at the same time, if you flip the coin, you know, even though that they were doing this with good intentions, later on it could have had bad repercussions, because then later generations, you know, they did it so that, you know, their other generations would remember, you know, what God had done. But they ran the risk that as their children and their children's children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren would forget that it was a memorial, and they would end up maybe getting lazy, and instead of going to Jerusalem, to the temple, they would say, oh, I don't have to go all the way over there. Why? We can just go to the temple here on this side. You don't have to go all the way over there. Besides, we serve the same God. Right? So that was the danger in what they did. That even though it was with good intentions, that yes, you know, their attitude was that, hey, we serve the Lord. And this is just so that everyone remembers on both sides that we serve the Lord even though we're on this side of the river. We still serve the same God, but the danger is that later on in other generations they would forget that. And they would just take the attitude of, you know, we're not going to go all the way, we'll just stay here and do it. And that's wrong, because God ordered them to do it in one place. Right? Alright, let's go to the next one. Number 5. The answer would be, Joshua said, everyone was fulfilled. What is the question? Sebastian.
I just wrote, who said everyone was fulfilled?
I'm sorry?
Who said everyone was fulfilled?
Who said everyone was fulfilled?
Yeah.
What do you have? No, you have the other one. You don't have the intermediate. Okay. Anybody else want to give me Alexa, do you want to try?
Why do you think they?
No? Okay. Ali?
What did Joshua say about God's promises?
Well, not exactly what God would say, but...
Sorry.
What did Joshua say?
Well, yeah, Joshua said everyone was fulfilled. Okay, Joshua said that the promises were fulfilled at the end. After they had battled, after they had conquered all the land, after Joshua was getting ready to divide everybody into the land that they were promised, Joshua said, every one of, let me see if I could break down the answer a little bit. It says, Joshua said everyone was filled. Everyone what? Because it's not talking about every person was filled. It's asking everyone what actually was filled. Every, starts with a P. Promise. Every promise was fulfilled. Everyone was fulfilled. So, I'll tell you what I wrote. The question would be, what happened with God's promises? Okay, because God gave many promises to the people of Israel, when they left Egypt. And before they entered the land, God gave them lots of promises. And one of the promises was that they would all receive land. That they would conquer their enemies, that God would push them out, and He would give them land and cattle and everything else that they had, right? So, the question would be, what happened with God's promises? And the answer is, Joshua said everyone was fulfilled. So, that's what happened. That God's promises were fulfilled for the people of Israel. Okay, number 6. Huh? The answer is, as long as the elders who knew Joshua lived. What would be the question? Anybody want to volunteer? Before I pick somebody. Joseph?
How long did the Israelites stay faithful to God?
Very good. That's very good. That's the correct answer. How long did Israel serve the Lord would be another way to rephrase it. And the answer is obviously as long as the elders knew Joshua lived. Okay. Now, memory workout. Can anybody tell me what 5 of the 10 commandments were? Anybody want to volunteer? Ali, you were the first one to raise your hand. Give me one.
Thou shalt not have other gods before me. Thou shalt
Just
not.
one? Just one? Just one. Okay. Anybody else?
Change what day it was at the time of his verses. So what day
Alexa, you want to try?
would it have been of the week? Steven.
Doesn't have to be in order. Just give me one.
Friday, correct. Friday would have been the last day. And the first day.
Very good. That's one of them. Walter?
Thou shalt not say God's name in vain. God's name in vain.
Very good. Honor your father and your mother. We'll just keep going then. Joseph?
Where Jesus ate actually.
Thou shalt not kill. Anybody else? Arlen?
Remember the Sabbath.
Remember the Sabbath. Walter?
No, I was gonna say that.
Okay. Sebastian? You want to give us one?
Number 5. Read the Bible with fill in the blanks. Alright.
I was gonna say,
Okay. That, she said that. Walter?
Thou shalt not covet.
Thou shalt not covet. Okay. Ali? You have one?
Thou shalt not make any idols.
Correct.
There's 2. Right, I was gonna. No.
Okay. You want to try, Dimitri? I mean, Nico. It's hard when you have 2 brothers named Dimitri and Danico. Growing up, me and my brother, they always got us confused. Daniel, David. He was Daniel, I was David. And I always said, no, I'm Daniel. So,
Okay,
forgive me. You want to try?
John
Thou shalt not bear false witness.
Okay.
Thou shalt not kill.
You said that already. Alright.
Thou shalt not steal then.
Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not lie.
That's falsehood.
Who was Judas really worried about?
Let's go over to the map section. Since I know that you guys are all social study experts. You're clearing your throat because you want me to give you the first question, right? Okay. What was the land of Canaan called during the time of Jesus? Palestine. Very good. You see, I knew you had the answer.
Say it
You cleared your
louder.
throat. Okay. Label the place, that's number 2. Label the place where many went to celebrate the Passover feast. Where did they go?
David, and go to Deuteronomy.
Well, yeah, Jesus was the son of David. That's what he was called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerusalem?
In Jerusalem. Very good. Label the place where he went to. Okay, we write that one. Circle the town where Lazarus lived. Anybody else? Joseph? Bethany. Is that what you had?
Yeah.
Okay. I knew you had the answer, but I want somebody else to answer. All right, let's go over to the back, and we'll come back to apply it. Everybody ready? Okay, Sebastian. Number 1. What did you write in the blank? Jewish, well, hold on a second. It says Jewish blank. What did you write? Passover. Very good. It says, right, the feast, it was almost time to celebrate the Passover, the Jewish Passover. Okay. What great event was remembered when the Jews ate the feast? I want somebody to explain it to me. I've never heard this before in my entire life. And I will run into you with this question, and you're going to explain it to me. Okay? Just the way you learned it, how you wrote it there, okay? So tell me how.
Okay, the Passover was really
The question was, why do you
about the
think
angel death
that they looked for Jesus in the temple?
It was basically the Passover was talking about the angel death passing over the houses of those who put the blood of a lamb on top of on the doors. So their firstborn would be killed by the angel of death, and then they celebrated the Exodus from Egypt.
Okay, very good. That was very detailed. Thank you. All right. It also says, label the city where the people came to do this. Abigail? Jerusalem. Okay, number 2. Number 2. Label the place where people look for Jesus. That's
The temple courts.
where?
The temple courts.
Very good. Temple courts. Yes? Oh, you're going to answer that. So you're going to answer. I haven't even asked it yet. Okay. Why, Abigail? Okay. So they were expecting him to be at the feast of the Passover, right? So that's why they went to look for him, because they expected him to be there. Number 3. Circle the 2 groups of people who had given orders concerning Jesus. So who were those 2 groups of people?
The chief priest and the Pharisees.
Okay. All right. In the bubble, what is that what was it that they were saying?
Arrest Jesus.
Why?
Well, the chief priest said that if people start following Jesus, that they're gonna knock down his temples, and people are gonna like turn around. They're not gonna wanna like listen to what they say.
Okay.
So like they won't have anything left.
So what is it that transpired that led them to feel threatened about Jesus? Hold on a second, I'm not finished. What is it that happened that so many people started following Jesus And the chief priests and the Pharisees were like, you know, what's going on? We want him. Bring him to us.
He resurrected.
Go ahead, go ahead.
He raised Lazarus from the dead.
He raised Lazarus from the dead. So, what effect did that have on the people?
Because they started to follow Jesus more because Lazarus was
Okay. That is correct. That is correct. Does anybody else want to elaborate a little bit more? I want more information. I don't know anything about this stuff. I want to learn.
In the year, no one could raise people.
Hold on. Shh, quiet, quiet.
Whenever people died, you couldn't raise them from the dead, and Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead, and people knew Lazarus that he was dead, and it was a miracle. So people started believing in Jesus and that he was actually the Son of God. And the chief priests and Pharisees didn't want people to believe that.
Very good. This was a big event. You know, it's not like today where, you know, you hear of things all the time. You hear it on the news. You know, nowadays, you know, doctors don't have the power to resurrect people. Sorry. But let's say, for example, nowadays people are sick and they have a condition where their heart stops. You know, if they get to the hospital soon enough or the ambulance, they can restart their heart. You know, doesn't necessarily mean that they were completely dead, because, you know, it's the only one that can raise anyone from the dead is God. But if they have a physical condition where their heart stops, but they have still something in their body that can be revived, it happens. So it's really not a big deal to us anymore when you know, people are taken to the hospital, they have CPR, you know, and they're able to resuscitate them. But in those days, that didn't happen. If you stop breathing, they figured, that's it, you're dead. You know, you can't be brought back to life. So for somebody to be, and in Lazarus' case, we're not talking about somebody that just collapsed, you know, and they did CPR. He was dead already. He was wrapped up like a mummy, and they put him inside the tomb. And he had been dead already for how many days?
4.
4 days. He had been dead for 4 days. You know how you start to smell after 4 days? I think it was 3 days.
He died of leprosy. Did he die of leprosy?
No. He didn't die of any diseases. It just says that he died. So anyway, imagine after 4 days being dead, or 3 days, how you smell, how the body starts to stink. So he was, how we say sometimes, he was dead. And there was nothing that anybody could do about him. And when Jesus resurrected him, you know, he resurrected him, he was whole again. He was like normal, as if nothing ever happened. So you can imagine when the news spread about this was big. This was really big, that somebody, and they knew he was dead because people had gone to the funeral. You know, this isn't just, you know, hearsay that, well, some people say that he did die, other people say that he was just hiding in a cave somewhere. You know, and well, we don't really know the truth. No, there were witnesses. They knew he was dead. People that knew him. You know, and word got around of what Jesus did. So it was a really big deal. People believed. They believed that Jesus performed a miracle. So they were following Jesus and didn't want to go to the temple. They wanted to follow Jesus. So the Pharisees and the high priest, or the chief priests, you know, they felt threatened. They were, hey, these people aren't coming to church, or they're not coming to the temple. You know, they're following this man. We need to arrest him. Okay, so number 4. On the calendar, shade what day it was at the time of these verses. Okay, so I trust that you all read the chapter. Okay, and there's a P on a Thursday. Okay. Can anybody tell me what day is it that we were supposed to shade? Walter?
Last week Friday.
Last week Friday. So that, what is it supposed to be? How many days?
7.
6 days.
6.
6 days.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about the 6 days. What is it that they're talking about? I've never seen this calendar before. Tell me about it. Walter?
What? You never seen this calendar? It's right here.
Like I said, I've never seen this before.
Oh.
Explain it to me.
Alright, it was the calendar,
It's not the calendar I'm really looking for. I'm looking for an explanation about the 6 days.
6 days they were in the desert.
No. 6 days. What were they talking about in the verse there about 6 days? I don't know what's going on. Can anybody explain to me?
I think
Ali?
that Lazarus was dead on Friday. And then through those days he was resurrected and they were celebrating through those days.
Okay, open your Bibles to John 12, verse 1 and 2. And we're going to get to the bottom of this.
I know.
Okay, Harley, since you know, I want you to read it. 1 and 2. Read it clearly so we can understand what it says.
Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. There they made him a supper, and Martha served. But Lazarus was one of them and sat on the table with him.
Okay, read one more.
Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And
Okay,
the
stop right there. Stop right there. We don't want to go too far. We want to go to the next one. Okay, so read chapter 11, the last 2 verses. And I think that's where it gives a good explanation.
Then sought they for Jesus, and spake among themselves as they stood in the temple, What think ye, that he will not come to the feast? Now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a commandment that if any man knew where he should shoot it, that they might take him.
Okay, so basically, they were expecting him to show up, but for those 6 days, he was with Lazarus. He was with Lazarus. Okay, number 5. It says, read the Bible verse. Fill the blanks. Alright? So John 12:3. And I want you all to say it together as I read along. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard and expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her
Hair.
Very good.
Hair.
All right. In the bubble, place a check beside the word that tells who Judas was concerned about.
The poor.
Okay, let me ask you something, because you went like this, poor, because that was going to lead to my next question. Why did you go like this, poor?
Because he didn't really care because he was a thief.
Oh, Jesus, he was a thief. Okay, that's very good. It's very true, and I'm glad you put it that way. You know, why be political about it? It was true. He was thinking about himself. He was being a hypocrite, really. You know, trying to impress Jesus and saying, oh, she could have, instead of, you know, pour out all that expensive perfume on your feet, she should have sold it and get a lot of money for it and give it to the poor. Trying to impress Jesus. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he thought that Jesus was going to turn around and pat him on the shoulder and say, well said, very true. She should have done that. She should have given it to the poor. But Jesus saw right through him. And what did Jesus say to him?
In fact, on the side it says, did Jesus get your best? Or did you get something left over when you
Anybody? What did Jesus say to him?
I remember him saying that her.
Okay. Well, why did he let her? And what else did he say? Do you remember?
the
day
It
of
was
his death.
symbolizing the day of his resurrection.
You always have the poor with you, but you will not forever.
Okay, no. He said that she had already separated that for his burial.
Yeah, the bear.
Okay, because she was going to use that to pour it on his body after, when they would dress him as a mummy and put him in the tomb. That they would in those days that they would use perfumes and spices
To hide the smell?
to hide the smell. So she was going to use it anyway for Jesus. That was the purpose of the perfume. But that's not what she wanted to do. She didn't want to wait for Jesus to die to use the perfume. She wanted to pour it on him while he was still alive. Okay. We're going to elaborate on that a little bit later. Let's go to number 6. I think we finished on that. Number 6. Draw an X on the person's name who was not a reason crowds came to Bethany.
Judas.
Judas.
Okay, very good. The people came because of?
He came because of Lazarus and Jesus.
Okay, so basically it's kind of like what we just spoke about a few minutes ago. That the people didn't go to the temple. They went to go see Jesus and Lazarus. They wanted to see Lazarus resurrected. And Jesus who performed the miracle. Okay, why? Very good. And where was it that they were going to? Very good. Okay, number 7.
Very good, that's one way. So one way of putting it first is
The picture of those 3 right there, that look like the 3 stooges. Who are those supposed to be?
The chief priests and the Pharisees.
Okay, very good. And what is it that they were thinking?
To kill Lazarus.
Lazarus.
Okay.
He was part of the
Two.
So,
Yeah, 2.
with that.
All right.
To end
Why?
the commotion.
Because many of
Because he was
them
causing
started
attention.
to believe in Jesus.
Attention.
Okay, so that's why they wanted to kill Lazarus, right?
Yeah, he
To
was
end
part of the miracle.
all the
Commotion.
commotion, yeah.
Very good.
Between Jesus and Lazarus.
Okay, can you repeat that again?
That there was so much commotion and everyone was talking about Jesus and believing in him that they wanted to kill Lazarus so no one would go to Jesus anymore and go to the temple courts instead.
Very good. Now, can you relate to this part in your own lives? All right. Jesus did something for Lazarus, right? Again, what is it that he did?
He resurrected him from the
Okay.
dead.
Now, here's Lazarus resurrected. And what do people want to do to Lazarus? Okay, did Lazarus do anything to them?
No.
Okay, did Lazarus do anything for himself?
No.
Who did it?
Jesus.
Oh, I see
Okay.
what you're
Hold
talking
on.
about in the movie.
Hold on. Hold on. All right. Now, what did Jesus do for you? He died on the cross for you. Did you do that for yourself?
No.
Did you save yourself?
No.
Okay. What does the devil want to do to you?
He wants to get
Kill.
you.
Spiritually.
He came to kill, to destroy, and to
He came. Exactly. Say it louder. Say it louder. I want to hear that.
He came to kill and he came to destroy.
He came to destroy. Okay. On a daily basis, do you run into people that don't like you because of what you believe? No? Okay, let me ask you this. Do they think you're weird because when you're in school because of the way you dress?
Yeah.
You don't think you're weird?
They're doing a bit,
Well, yeah.
What? They think you're, well, not that they think
For
you're
how the way
weird.
you dress?
Do they think you're
Just wear
strange
pants.
because you don't do the things they do?
Well, some of them. Yeah.
Some of them? Do they ever ask you why you don't curse?
No, not really.
They don't ask you that?
Like they asked me, do you curse them?
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not asking you in detail exactly if that's what they're asking you, but say it again. They ask you what?
They ask you, do you curse or anything? I'm like, no.
Okay. Do they ask you what? Do you wear shorts? Why don't you wear shorts?
No, not really.
They don't ask you that?
No.
They ask you if you go to certain places?
No, they've never.
Well, you're not a really good example for me. Can anybody give me an example of things that people may ask you? In school or your neighbors?
Well, like in the beginning of the year, like they would like sometimes.
That's what I'm talking about. After a while, they may not ask you anymore. But like in the
because
beginning,
they know.
when they don't know you at first.
Yeah.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, like maybe they might ask you, why don't you curse, or like, why don't you do the stuff that we do? Because like sometimes they play around like making fun of other people, and then they go like, well, why don't you do this? And well, it's not the right thing to do. So you tell them, and then they know not to bother you again and not to tell you again to do this stuff.
Abigail?
Some people ask me if I've ever worn pants in my life.
Okay, see? Alright. Now, the point that I'm trying to get across is, because you follow Jesus, you know, they may perceive you as being strange, odd, and maybe when you get older, you'll understand that sometimes they may feel uncomfortable around you because of who you follow. Okay, because you follow Jesus. I'll give you an example. I follow Jesus. Okay? My spirit isn't the same as the spirit of a person that's in the world. A neighbor maybe, or a co-worker. Okay? They like, for example, they like to go drinking. They may be into things that aren't pleasing before God. Okay? And their spirit clashes with mine. Because they know that something inside of me, which is Jesus, it bothers them. That I don't do the things that they do. They do them, but it bothers them. That they do these things, and they know their conscience tells them that it's wrong what they're doing. Okay? And maybe they go out in the parties, and they go drinking, and they do whatever it is that they do. And then when they come to work and they see me, that I am an upright man, that I follow Jesus, that I live according to His commandments, it bothers them. And when something bothers a person, they may react in a way that, you know, they may talk about you behind your back. They may do things to try to get you in trouble with your boss maybe, or in school. When I was in school, they may do things, I remember they used to tell the teacher things that weren't true to get me in trouble with the teacher. Why? Because it bothered them that I was saved and that I didn't do the things that they did. You know, and maybe they cheated on a piece of paper, on their friends or their tests. They cheated, and I wouldn't cheat. You know, and even though that's none of my business what they did, if they wanted to cheat, that was their problem. But the fact that I didn't do it, it bothered them. So, even though that Lazarus didn't do anything to them, it bothered the chief priests. It bothered the Pharisees that the people were following Jesus. It bothered them that people were going to see Lazarus. They were going to see the miracle that Jesus had performed. They wanted to see Lazarus alive, that he was breathing, that there wasn't anything wrong with him. And that bothered them. You see? You see what the connection I'm trying to make here? That's how you apply it to yourself. That when you follow Jesus, people are it's going to happen. They're going to be displeased with you. And it's not that they're displeased with you personally, but they're displeased with the fact that they're uncomfortable with the way they are. And they don't have Jesus. Okay? Alright. Let's go turn your pages back on the part where it says apply it. And I want you to read John 12:3. Whoa. Okay, read it nice and loud for me.
Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with an odor of the ointment.
Okay. Now the question is, why do you think Mary did something for Jesus that was so expensive? Okay? Walter.
It was worth it.
It was worth it. Okay, can you elaborate a little bit more?
Well, Jesus is almighty and all powerful, and he saved Lazarus he resurrected Lazarus, so that's something really big. So Mary did something really special that she trying to find the word.
It was great.
Grateful, yeah.
Okay. Just to briefly go fast, because now the second bell's rung, we gotta leave. And I want to leave you with these questions. Okay. Are you giving God your best? Okay, because you have to remember, it was very costly, this perfume. Very, very expensive. Mary probably spent all that she had, all her savings, everything that she owned. She probably didn't have much because she sold this stuff to be able to acquire this perfume. One, it was very rare for anybody to obtain this. Okay? And to get your hands on it, you had to have money. Okay? So, applying it to your lives, I want you to think about this when you guys go home. Am I giving God my best? Okay? And will, this is the question. Will serving God, will it cost me? Okay? Think about this. And I'm going to ask you next Sunday, before we get into the lesson, I'm going to ask you questions about this. And maybe more than one question. So I really do want you guys to think about that question especially. Am I giving God my best? Okay? All right, class dismissed.